So I think it's safe to say the mid-2020s have been quite a turbulent time for Mega Man fans. I think that part's pretty accurate. Sure, the collections have been very plentiful, and that's really awesome. The references in other games, sure, that's cool too. There's a coffee partnership. Cool, man. And while one may never really know when a brand new game is actually on the horizon, one of the biggest surprises of the 2024 Summer Game Announcement season, in my opinion, was the random drop of the entire Game Boy Mega Man line, also known as Mega Man World, on the Nintendo Switch Online Game Boy app. And if you focus really close on the trailer, you'll see that the life count corresponds to the game being shown at the time, which is just a very cute detail. I hope the person who was capturing footage got a raise. Now obviously I can't speak for everybody out there, but I was always someone who loved classic Mega Man. You know, I'm fairly well versed in all of them. My first one was 8, and then I played all the other ones, and I love all of them, even like the mid ones, like, I don't know, 4 is kind of mid in my opinion, but I still really like it. Even though I've played them all a bunch, I never really gave the Game Boy games that much attention outside of the 5th one. So I figured, hey, now that the games are widely available on the Switch, I'll take some time out to put these games through their paces. I guess there's no harm in continuing this line of thinking for retro games too. I've already done it once before, so why not? Screw it, here we go. So, I've been playing the Mega Man World games on the Game Boy NSO app, and I just want to talk about it. So while I think it would be the easiest to comment on Mega Man 5 first, since that is the one that I'm pretty sure most people are familiar with, let's do this in chronological order, because that's the order I played them in when they showed up on NSO. May as well, I feel like that's how a lot of people are going to give these a shot, which is important, but also keep in mind, this series actually starts off kinda rough. So let's start with Mega Man 1, also known as Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge, the only Mega Man game in this series to have a subtitle. We're never going to refer to it like that again. I think Mega Man World, from the Japanese title of Rockman World, that makes a lot more sense, differentiates the series just enough, so we're gonna keep that title going forward. And then you hop in, you got 4 robots to pick from, not 6, you only got 4, rest in peace Gutsman and Bombman. But then once you dive in, it doesn't take long to realize that, yeah, this is certainly Mega Man on the Game Boy, alright. There is a story involved here, like apparently this game is supposed to take place in between the events of Mega Man 1 and 2, and like, cool, I guess, and I'm not saying that Mega Man games can't have a story whatsoever, but like, for this game, I don't care, man, I don't care. You can tell me that this was like a demake of the first game and I would believe you. Having the reduced audio quality, you know, having like the NES chiptune music and sounds brought into the Game Boy, like there's a very much a charm to that. Seeing a lot of the mechanics from the NES games brought into level designs that are brand new, that's definitely a cool novelty as well. And also kind of following Mega Man 1 on NES, the controls are not great. Something that is definitely fixed in later entries, but Mega Man feels very sloppy in this one. I don't know why, because this was made by a different studio than main Capcom, I think. I also could be wrong on that, but regardless, Mega Man doesn't control all that great. So, thank God we have the NSO rewind functionality, because if you play through these, you're gonna want to take advantage of that. There's a lack of checkpoints, there's a lot of pixel-perfect jumps, there's like flying bullets that'll come across the screen that you don't anticipate, there's no E-tanks, you gotta deal with the game stuttering a bunch if there's too many things on screen. It's way more egregious than on the NES where the screen size is at least bigger. When it's already smaller because of the Game Boy and things are stuttering, it can definitely be a rough time. But yeah, like, again, once you dive in, it's just Mega Man. It's just more Mega Man. The same stages are there. If you play them on NES, you kind of have a good idea of what to expect from these stages. There's nothing really different about it. Like, some of the boss arenas are smaller, of course, so like your challenge and your difficulty, your patterning is going to be a little bit different on how you approach these bosses, but otherwise, it's exactly the same. Although one major downgrade, I think, and it's something that really... it's no big deal in the grand scheme of things, but for Mega Man fans, this is important, okay? When you jump on the boss gate, you just like kind of run through it. You don't do like the stop in midair thing, like it is bad. It's a bad boss gate. Also, these games go by like super quickly. You beat the 4 bosses, and then there's a middle stage. Oh man, it's like, oh, Dr. Wily's already there. It's been 20 minutes, that's crazy. You dive in, and not only does it seem like a fairly typical Wily stage, we have original music now? Like, okay, it took a while, but we have an original song. That's really cool. It actually has a nice melody to it. You know, there's some parts where the screen goes absolutely slow as all hell. Once again, the Game Boy could not handle this game. And then you get to the end of the stage, and you find 4 teleporters, and you're like, oh man, it's time for the boss refights like in every Mega Man game, but then no! It's some of the bosses from Mega Man 2! Oh my god! I guess I don't know if this, like, maybe back when this game came out, if this was a major plot twist. I don't know how much that has been advertised, but I mean, it's certainly cool. There's no levels for these guys, and you have to fight Mega Man 2 bosses with the Mega Man 1 weapons. That's kind of interesting, I guess. And you get their power. And there's not much more game after these bosses, so you just get these powers kind of for the sake of it. It's weird. This is a very sloppily put together game. But the cool part is once you get them all done, a new baddie shows up. Like, oh wow, finally. It's the first like fully original thing in this game. This is Anchor. His whole thing is he can jump around the screen and he has this sword that when he holds it up, it'll attract the buster shot that you're shooting out, and then he'll shoot it back towards you. Incredibly easy. Just incredibly pathetic and simple. He would show up in Mega Man Soccer after this, and good for him. The most interesting thing is really the lore that comes out of these guys, is the Mega Man Killers, which Anchor is a part of. We'll talk into this more as we get through the later entries, but Dr. Wily made a set of 3 robots called the Mega Man Killers, and you can tell what their modus operandi is. They want to kill Mega Man. It's interesting that they never show up in the NES game, but when Mega Man 10 came around and they did DLC, hey, look at that. A DLC stage. You have to pay for this, but you had a stage that was based off of the same level design from the level that we just did in Mega Man World, and then you fight Anchor in the NES style. That was cool, but here, it's whatever. It's just a means to give you the weapon that you're gonna need for the final boss. It's a pretty quick romp, and then you get to the Dr. Wily robot, and you can take out a few of its parts, and then I get to the final section, and I'm like, oh man, none of my things are working. What do I do? Oh, of course, it's the thing I just got from Anchor, where you gotta reflect the beams that it's shooting at you. It's incredibly easy. Like, I think maybe once again, you gotta look at these in the time frame that they were released. It's probably super cool to have this game on a small screen, but now I beat this game in like 45 minutes. I kind of walked away thinking nothing much of it besides the fact that I think the Mega Man Killers are cool. And let's just carry this energy into Mega Man 2, because if you thought it was just gonna get better from here, oh boy, that's not the case. Obviously, the irony is not lost on me on this, in that Mega Man 2 for NES is often considered to be the best one of the NES games. I disagree, I'm a Mega Man 6 guy, but I get it. Mega Man 2 on Game Boy released a couple months after Mega Man 1. Like, I'm not over-exaggerating on this, like, this is no hyperbole, it released a couple of months after the first game. So, that's a good sign. Mega Man 2 on Game Boy is the worst of the 5, and it is no question. Once again, you dive in, there are 4 bosses to check out, the remaining 4 that were not at the end of Mega Man 1, and once you dive into a stage, you notice something very peculiar. This music is absolute ass. I don't know what happened here. I have no idea what the circumstances were that led to music this bad, and it's like maybe the compositions themselves are fine. I've heard some remixes of the music that are not bad, but the pitch is so high, it's just ear-grating from start to finish. I don't know what compelled them to make new songs. It's not even like they're remixes of the NES songs like the first one were. Like the first game had like kind of demakes of the NES songs. This is all brand new stuff. It's so bonkers. I would recommend people listen to remixes of them because maybe there's some quality there, but in-game, oh, ass. And then the level design is just a whole lot worse. The enemy placements are a whole lot worse. The sprites look weird, like you have the ability to slide now, which is kind of unnecessary, and like the sprite looks weird. His chin is like going into his body. It looks weird. Typically, I would just say like any Mega Man game, you kind of get the gist of it by playing it, and they're all at the very baseline good, but man, whoever they had making the level designs for this game specifically really didn't care. There's so much about this that's unremarkable, and you're just plowing your way to the end without much thought. There's still some Game Boy garbage, so once again, it's cool that there's rewind, because the difficulty that's here is not fun, it's just very frustrating. And then you beat all 4 guys, and then you get to Dr. Wily, and like once again, the sprites. What's wrong with Dr. Wily's chin? I'll give the game a little bit of credit though, because then you have a teleporter sequence that leads to 4 new areas, based on Mega Man 3 this time, and there's actually some levels here before you fight the bosses. That's good. The level design philosophy still, continues, so it's not all that exciting. But, once again, I'm sure the plot twist back when this game first came out blew some kids' minds. Brother, when you jump on Rush, he looks sad. I don't understand. He's like, "Father, why must you do this to me?" And then, immediately after you clear out all 4 teleporters, the floor opens up and another brand new bad guy. This is Quint. So apparently the story about this game is that Dr. Wily has a time machine now, and the rule set is he can't go to the past with it, he can go to the future and back. That's it. So what does he do? He goes to the future after Mega Man wins all the time, and he has been basically retired and turned into just a cleaning robot. He takes him, brings him back to the past, and remolds him to be evil, and that's what Quint is. Gave him a pogo stick. He's garbage. This is absolutely garbage at this fight. Like, Quint is garbage. He really lost all of his skills. Dr. Wily did not think this one through. He's also not even a Mega Man killer, and I don't know why this distinction exists. It's like, in 3 and 4, we talk about new robots that are part of the Mega Man killer's, you know, roster, but Quint does not. He just is there. Once again, the lore is kind of cool, I guess. Like, apparently the story about this game is expanded in a Rockman Forte game on WonderSwan, which is crazy. And then I think Quint shows up maybe in a comic somewhere. There's potential there, just not in this game because holy cow. And then you go into the last portion of the game and there's like floating clocks and stuff in the background to really emphasize the time machine stuff. There's no cutscenes in game, so unless you know the plot going into it, then you're just gonna be confused about why there's floating clocks. This Dr. Wily sprite it's hilarious. Why is his entire being the size of Mega Man's head? And it's such a dumb fight too. It's like in 3 sections, and then when you beat one, he flies off and you just kind of watch him as he lands into another robot, and then his skin color changes? Cause why? I don't understand. Why? Okay. Wily escapes, you're in a Rush thing that you can go into space, and then you shoot Wily, and I guess he dies, cause like, what? How? Of all the times Wily's gotten loose, I don't know how you can survive that. And then that's it. It's not good. Don't play it. So I was hesitant to move on. I needed like an extra day after dealing with, I played both 1 and 2 back to back, and that was a rough night. So I needed to sleep a little bit before I moved on to the next game. And then I got to Mega Man 3. And this one, I can finally say, is actually pretty good. It's not remarkable. It's quite frankly like not remarkable in the slightest, but it is more faithful to the NES games. They didn't try to act like they were doing something new or fancy or trying to really harness the power of the Game Boy. It's like, nah, they just took the NES games, the features, the mechanics, the music, and just ported it down. That's it. That's all you really needed. Thank God. Except for the story, I guess. It's about like Wily drilling through the Earth's crust and wants to harness energy. Who cares, man? Once again, you jump in, only 4 robots to deal with, and once you dive into the levels, yeah, if you're familiar at all with Mega Man 3, this is pretty damn faithful. But the important thing here, one of the most important parts of a Mega Man game, is the level design, and yes, they clearly made it better. It's like, objectively better. I don't think we can argue this. It's the best it's been yet. Thank God this game didn't release like just a few mere months after 2. Like, that would have been a terrible timeline. They took their time and cooked and got something decent here. But I didn't expect much from this series anyway, so I was still pleasantly surprised. Like, I went through this Mega Man game thinking, this is good, which, first time I've gotten to say it in this video so far. And then you take out the 4 bosses from Mega Man 3, you got a brand new level that pops up, and it's like, it's pretty decent, not super long, but it's a decent little platforming challenge, and then you fight a brand new robot, but not like a robot guy, just like a robot thing. It's like a brand new mini boss. Holy cow. This is the giant Susie, and the sprites are pretty decent and animates really well. You gotta actually think about how to approach it since you haven't fought something like this before. Oh, hey, okay, this is really looking up. And then similar to what we've been doing already, then you have 4 new robots to mess with, all from the following game, Mega Man 4. Same things still apply, level design is decent, music is good. You know, once again, not remarkable compared to the NES game, but for what they accomplished on the Game Boy, it's good stuff. The biggest takeaway from these games, quite frankly, one of the coolest things as a Mega Man fan is just figuring out how to tackle these bosses with the power-ups from the previous game. That's neat, and it's something I would like to see Capcom somehow try to harness more of with future games. I don't know how they do it, but I think that'd be cool. And then another Wily stage pops up, and hey, look at that, another actual robot guy this time. This is Punk, the second in the Mega Man Killers roster. And he definitely looks a lot cooler with his like spiky elbow pads and his little mohawk. Like, it's pretty cool. He's definitely more threatening than the other 2 fights that we've done before with Anchor and Quint. So That's nice. He's still no major threat, but certainly poses a higher challenge than the previous guys. And astute Mega Man fans will know that Punk actually shows up again in the series in Mega Man Battle Network 3. So that's kind of cool. You know, outside of like some graphical appearances in like Mega Man and Base, like that's a thing. There's a database that shows the killers in a newer style. That's cool. Once again, paid DLC in Mega Man 10 as well. I love that. There's not much of a stage for Punk in this game on the Game Boy, so a lot of the stuff in the Mega Man 10 stage is brand new, but hey, there he is. Cool stuff. So we get another Wily stage with more pretty decent level design. You know, once again, this whole game has been pretty decent so far. And then you got a Wily fight that doesn't put up much of a challenge, but graphically for the Game Boy, this is cool. I just appreciate something kind of new. But same idea, like having all these Robot Masters in the games are cool, but you don't really get a chance to utilize any of the powers because you do the 4 extra bosses and then the game is basically done. Like, all you have to do is fight the Mega Man Killer, and the Mega Man Killer's weapon is the one that's going to be used for the final boss. So it ultimately, even though this game is still good, I think so far Mega Man 3 is the best one, it still feels like this whole Game Boy line in general was just more so them trying to squeeze money out of the Mega Man Stone. They just seem like cash grabs, which I respect for the Game Boy. There were a ton of Game Boy games that were based off of NES games, so fine. I at least respect them trying to do something different. You just gotta make it good. 1 and 2 are not. This one was. Hopefully we can move up from here. And like no joke, just like 5 seconds into booting up Mega Man 4, I could tell that they were finally trying, they were finally giving a damn, because the opening title screen song slaps. There's an opening cutscene that is shockingly animated and detailed. Like, I watched it through twice in a row, because I was like, this is impressive, like, this is incredibly impressive. You're taking something that is so whatever in reusing Mega Man bosses for a Mega Man game, but like, I was sold by the presentation of this, so good on you, whoever animated and composed the title screen stuff. Like, this is great. Once you dive in though, yeah, it's more of the same, but upgraded from 3. So level design, really good stuff, you know, considering that we're on the Game Boy. Ultimately though, because it's still reusing a lot of the themes and the music and the bosses of the NES games, it's still not remarkable, but it's the best we've got so far. But what's cool is they finally decided to add some new little tweaks to the general gameplay experience. The levels all have these letters that you can get that are not really hidden. They're actually always in plain sight, so you can get them, and they spell out the word beat. So then once you get all 4, beat can help you out. That's cool. The level select screen is different. You got the sort of rotation display now with a bit of what the stage is kind of going to look like on the bottom screen. Like, really impressive stuff. There are P chips now in the levels where you can use them in the in-game shop in between levels. So you can get things like super tanks and weapon tanks, the energy balancers in here. That's cool. One change that's kind of weird is the Charge Buster is in this game, and if you use it, Mega Man like has a bit of a kickback to it, so he goes back a few pixels. Very strange. That like never happens with the Charge Buster, but okay, sure, we're working a little bit differently here. Doesn't mess you up at all because now that the level design is decent, you don't gotta worry about pits and stuff and random spikes everywhere. Going back a few pixels, I mean, it just kind of, I guess, makes the Buster seem powerful, but it's the same Buster. I don't know, man, that's a weird call. But really, even though it is a big improvement, like we're talking about a bunch of upgrades here, don't take away the fact that this is still a pretty unremarkable experience. If you played the previous Mega Mans at this point, the structure, exactly the same. You fight 4 bosses from one Mega Man game, there's a middle stage, and then you fight 4 bosses from the following Mega Man game. But now, the mid stage introduces the final Mega Man killer. This is Ballad, and he's kind of cool. I mean, like, he's the biggest one of the bunch. His song is kind of decent. Once again, has a unique stage that those gimmicks show up in the DLC stage for Mega Man 10. That's cool. I don't know if he's really any more threatening than Punk was. He shoots like these bomb things that are kind of neat, but there's clearly only so much you can do with the screen size this small. He's fine, but the lore. Oh my god, the lore. You don't kill him at first, he goes away, only to come back later, I would assume? Oh my gosh. There's another mid-stage fight too with the satellite cannon. Like, hey, with this and the Giant Susie, just cool stuff. They were actually trying with brand new boss fights. I like it. You take out the 4 bosses from Mega Man 5, and then it's time to fight Ballad once again. This time he's got sunglasses on, so he is way cooler. And then, in something that is brand new for the Mega Man World series, there's like a substantial amount of gameplay after that boss fight. You don't just do one stage that takes like 5 minutes and that's it. There's like still, I don't know, it was like 20 to 30 minutes of game to go through. Like, awesome. There's unique level themes and boss fights. You get to use the new power-ups that you were just getting, like, cool stuff. This is one of the issues the previous games had. It's been fixed now. There is a boss refight section. Not a huge fan of that. Never really like when that happens in these Mega Man games. I always think that that's just very tedious. Like, I don't really like it in any game, but it happens to be in like almost every Mega Man game. Like, hooray. Not a fan, but okay. Once you get through that, there's another cutscene that's like relatively well animated. What? You get like a picture of back Mega Man? Wow, I never thought I would see Mega Man's back like that on 8-bit. Like, that's good for you. And then you fight Dr. Wily's big robotic face and his 2 big fists. And it's definitely like the best Wily fight so far. So that's kind of cool. And then, wow, another cutscene. Ballad sacrifices himself so Mega Man can go free. How sweet of him. Only to appear once again in Mega Man 10. Man, you can never kill these robots. That's crazy. It's like they're robots. Dude, even the credit sequence, like there's like boss refights that you're not doing. It's controlled by the game itself, but you get to see something actually animate in the credits. It's the big thing with Mega Man 4 is that they just really upped the quality dramatically for a game that still is not all that remarkable. Up until this point, these Mega Man World games were just dead set on being like, hey, remember the NES games? And I'm sure there were definitely kids that only had a Game Boy, that this was their only way to play Mega Man games. Maybe they were fine with it. Like, luckily when it came to 3 and 4, they didn't have bad games. Like, one thing that's nice about 4 is it's like double the length almost of the previous games. Like, awesome. There's a lot of good game in 3 and 4 and not 1 and 2. So if anybody's wondering if you need to play them in order, don't, unless you're morbidly curious. Just skip 1 and 2. 3 and 4 are decent. But now it's time for the main event. Mega Man 5. Mega Man World 5, Mega Man 5 World, whatever you want to call it. This is the only game in the Game Boy series that is completely different and unique and original out of all of them. So much so that I never called it Mega Man 5 Game Boy. I always just said Mega Man V. That's what the Roman numeral is. That's what it shows up on the logo. A good way to differentiate it, in my opinion, was just calling it Mega Man V. That's probably how I'm going to keep calling it until the day I die. Right away, you can tell that there's something different going on here. There's a fully animated cutscene that tells a brand new story. One day, Rock and Roll are just walking, they're just strolling in the grass, and this new guy, Terra, shows up out of nowhere, and now he wants to take over the world. It's like, oh wow, okay, that's crazy. And he's powerful too, you can't damage him? Wow. The world is now being attacked by robots from outer space instead of within. Oh, this goes deep. Now, mechanically, like, once again, it is very much the same thing, except one of the nice changes is that the Mega Buster is different and no longer gives you kickback from a fully charged shot. Now, it's a brand new Buster, the Mega Arm. If you shoot out a fully charged shot, your whole hand goes with it. That's kind of cool, and you can do some extra damage there, and you can't shoot until your hand comes back. It changed things up quite a little bit, and like, okay, cool. The real thing, though, about this game is, once again, everything is brand new. You still have the same level structure of 4 robots at first, then a middle stage, and then 4 more robots. But once again, the robots are new. I love this so much, and they're all based off of planets. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Neptune, like all that stuff. Even Pluto. No matter what happens to Pluto in the real world, it's representing a planet in Mega Man V, and that's important. And every single level introduces brand new things, like Venus's level being filled with bubbles, Neptune having you like walk around the outside and the inside of a busted up ship. Like, I really like that, like a water ship. You're seeing pipes and stuff like breaking as you're walking inside, but you start off outside on the top of the ship. I like that. That's a really cool aesthetic. There's new enemies aplenty. There's brand new music for all the stages, and they're all composed really well. This game is impressive right off the bat because it's not only the fact that it's original stuff, but that it works with the Game Boy hardware in such a way that, yeah, there is still some slowdown from time to time, but there's never really any point that feels frustrating. The level design is really, really well done here. Once you get to the middle stage, what's really cool is that the boss fight that takes place here is the Dark Moon, which is a brand new Yellow Devil variant. I know like the whole Yellow Devil trope is used in a lot of Mega Man games, but quite frankly, I'm a fan of every single time it does, so it's cool that they made a brand new one that's based off of the Star Droids, and you know, it's cool, and it's really, it has a nice sprite. There's so much that they were able to do with such a limited color palette. Fun little detail too, there's like a cutscene that happens right before the fight, and while the gameplay is like above the text box, once the text box goes away, the screen starts shaking and the level plane moves down with it. Nice touch, I like that, that's a nice touch. And then you go into space where the remaining 4 robots are. They didn't all invade Earth, some of them stayed all the way up there, and you go to fight them on their own turf. That's such a neat idea. The same level mentality still applies, like it's really good level design, really good music, it's cool having a bunch of new enemies and brand new boss fights to deal with. All great stuff, it's just great stuff from start to finish. Similar to Mega Man 4 as well, there are P-chips that you can get in these stages that you can use in the in-game shop in between levels. You know, that's a Mega Man staple, glad it's in the Game Boy game. After you take out all the Star Droids, it's time for a one-on-one encounter with Terra. So this is sort of replacing the whole unique Mega Man Killers or Quint idea. You fight Terra here, and he's not that much of a threat if you know what you're doing. I mean, that's typical Mega Man boss fight affair, but he still looks cool. I like his big anime hair, his big 90s anime hair, that's kind of cool. But then, oh my god, it's Dr. Wily again. Wow. Dude, and then a flying stage in space? Bro, this game keeps on delivering. Oh god, I love this game. This game is awesome. Wily tries to stop you by shooting you away before you can get into it, but hey, you break open an entryway into his space station yourself, and then you go into it. It's, god, just the fact that there's like a place, like you can tell spatially where Mega Man is going throughout this entire adventure, from Earth to space, into the space station. It's cool, I like it. As far as storytelling goes in a Mega Man game, this is doing a good job. And then it's time for some more boss refights, but boss refights of the Mega Man Killers and Quint. Cool. They're just as easy as ever. Like they had some time to make Quint something worth a damn, but no. What I do like though is that this is a full-on stage. It's not a series of teleporters that bring you to the Mega Man Killers. It's one continuous stage where you fight them in order. Cool, I like that. Still not huge on refights, but the fact that they're refights from a set of different Mega Man games, big fan. And then you go ahead and do the typical Mega Man boss refights. You know, there's gotta be a worst part of every Mega Man game. That's just this one. You take out these big robotic hands in a multi-stage Wily robot fight, typical stuff, and then, when you think you're done even more, Wily gets away and summons this. This is Sunstar. Oh my god, the ruler of the Star Droids. This is what Wily was doing the whole time, trying to summon Sunstar? Oh, and then Sunstar kills him! Oh wow, betrayal. I never saw that coming. It's a pretty solid fight. I mean, once again, nothing too crazy. I just find it admirable that this is finally a time where Dr. Wily is not the final boss of one of these Mega Man games. Like, the Wily fight is not bad, but the Sunstar is the final fight. I like that. But of course, you take him out in no time, the star station starts to blow up, Sunstar tells you to run, you do so, you treat it to some more really beautiful Game Boy sprite work, the thing explodes, it looks really cool, honestly, like, I'm a big fan of giant explosions, it looks pretty cool. A very somber credit sequence to end the Mega Man World series. So, going into these games, I had a decent idea of what to expect. I expected Mega Man 5 to continue to be great, and then like maybe one of the other games would be good. At least my expectations, you know, were exceeded because there were 2 good games outside of Mega Man 5. 3 and 4, pretty decent. 1 and 2, not great. But even though 3 and 4 are decent, there's no reason to play them. Once again, this is totally a product of their time. Having Mega Man games on the Game Boy, taking those games on the go, wow, that's crazy. And these games should be accessible, you know, for all the Mega Man fans out there. I was always kind of upset these games didn't show up in the Mega Man Legacy collections. So for the sake of just having a Mega Man fan out there wanting to experience everything about this series, it's cool that they exist, but ultimately, not great. Cool that you can play this, like this was the first time you can play as Mega Man on the go. And, you know, going forward, we would see things like the Mega Man Game Gear game, which would kind of follow a similar mentality as the Game Boy ones. There was Mega Man Powered Up on PSP, another retake on Mega Man 1. I really like that game a whole lot. I would love to see that game get ported, as well as Mega Man Maverick Hunter X, great games, which also leads me to maybe Mega Man Extreme 1 and 2 will be coming out in the near future as well. Never got to play those, so now I'm just like hedging my bets, because once it hits NSO, that'll be the time. Before we really wrap things up though, I do have to mention one incredible series of projects that are in the works by hardcore Mega Man fans, and that is of course, the Mega Man World colorization hacks by multiple hackers, actually. These classic Mega Man games, released for the Game Boy, upgraded to Game Boy Color ROMs, and given full-on color. Seeing games like Mega Man 1 and 2 on Game Boy running in color, of course you can tell that it's just a very derivative experience, but it does kind of feel a little more like appropriate, I guess, to see these Mega Man stages that you already know are familiar on a smaller screen. And kudos to the developer of the Mega Man 2 hack specifically, because not only did they fix a lot of the sprites, so like the slide sprite, whole lot better, that's cool. There's also the option at the title screen to play a different soundtrack, a different remixed soundtrack that sounds a whole lot better. But of course, if anything, Mega Man V, DX, like having this whole brand new game with full color, you know, that's incredible. In my opinion, these are the ways to play these games. The accessibility for NSO, very cool, but this is the way to experience these games. And by the time you're watching this video, it's very important to call to attention this project that's being developed for 2025 of Mega Man Mania, essentially, for the Game Boy Advance. These games were initially conceptualized to have their own Mega Man Anniversary Collection on GBA way back in the day, but that version got canceled. So, take it upon these fans who are making DX versions of all 5 Mega Man games and then compiling them into a Game Boy Advance ROM. Pay attention to these projects if you care about these games at all. These will be the definitive way to experience these games, and even if you play the NSO, like classic Game Boy versions first, whatever, most of them are like an hour at most, so you're not missing much, but it's cool. So yeah, I rambled on for way too long about these Mega Man games, but you know, it's 5 games. Like I feel like I still missed out on a lot of stuff. It's 5 games here, but that's one of the cool things about NSO, baby. Getting to try out games that I've been meaning to get to for years, and I finally did it because it was just right there. That's cool. I like that. Some of these games are not great, but it's cool that they're there. Let me know if you played the games. Let me know your thoughts down below. And yeah, that's all I got. Mega bye.